I'm back with another case study, but it's not your traditional case study. Meaning today is a client that has $500,000 and they are going to retire and they're going to be in a wonderful spot. But most of you that reach out go, hey, you do a lot of content with someone who has $1 million or 5 million or 10 million, but I don't have that. So am I not in a position to retire? I still want to do that. I just don't have those same assets. And so today isn't me saying this is what you can or can't do. It's showing you, hey, here's a real case study of someone who has $500,000 who is in a good position to retire. And here's when they can make it happen. Because what I do not want to do is have anyone come to me and retire too soon. Now, I've had that where people come, they retired early, then all of a sudden they didn't spend what they wanted to spend. They wish they worked just a few more years so that they could really enjoy the next 20, 30 years of their life. And that is why I love what I do. So today I'm going to show you a case study of exactly someone who is in that position of $500,000 and they want to retire with total confidence and start doing what they want to do, prioritizing time with family, friends, health, you name it. So with that being said, let's hop in. If you don't already know, my name is Taublieb. I'm a certified financial planner. I'm the host of the Early Retirement Podcast, and I'm the vice president here at Root. So some background on the clients. Here you go. I'm going to make sure to zoom in. So if any of you guys are squinting, I'm going to make it easier for you. Here's their net worth. It's around $970,000. Luke Sample, Mary Sample, of course, not real names to absolutely, protect security. Luke is 66, Mary 64. So it's not your traditional early retirement case study that I'm doing today, but it's still going to shed some light. And the reason I'm doing this in large part, just so you know, I'm going to go over this. There's just so much content out there for people that do have $1 million, $2 million, $5 million, $10 million. So everyone else is going, hey, am I not in a good spot? Now, the majority of people that I do work with, they have north of 1 million or 2 million or 5 million because that's where we can add value. So I'm one of the weird advisors that say, I don't think everyone needs an advisor. It just depends what stage of life you're in and what experience you're looking for. Some of you love tax law. That's what you want to do in retirement. Great, there's value there. But I'm making this for all of you that are going, hey, I want to be spoken to. I don't have $1 million, $2 million, $5 million. So here's their brokerage account. That's also known as a taxable account. It's also known as a joint account. It's also known as an individual. This is just that account. It's not a retirement account. So $42,000 is what they have in this specific account. This is like if you go to Vanguard and just click open new account, but it's not a Roth IRA or an IRA or anything like that. They do have a home that's worth about $500,000 and there's a mortgage of $95,000. Now, this particular couple, they wanted to retire and they are just going to sleep better having the mortgage paid off. So they knew they could invest differently and add more dollars, but they're like, hey, listen, we are going to sleep a whole lot better if we don't have that mortgage. So my dopey joke for my clients is I'll tell them, hey, what's going to put more happiness in your pocket? Is it paying off the mortgage or is it investing more? Because I've never had a client throw a party when their investment portfolio goes up by $200,000, but they sure do sleep better when the mortgage is paid off. So it's always about quantifying that. And some people it's, hey, I'd love to pay off the mortgage, but I see this is like a $300,000 decision over time. So I'm doing that. So overall, a good advisor should just quantify the trade-offs for you. Mary has a 401k she's actively contributing to in a Roth IRA with $50,000. And they always have $25,000 on hand. And then this IRA is from an old company that Luke was working at. And then he has a new 401k he just started. So that's not included in here. So this is what they're working with. This is the couple here. Before we hop into what they're on track for and what they can do, I always like to just start with, hey, what were the goals? So these are the goals that I already spoke with them about, but I want you guys to know what on earth we're planning for. And they're like, hey, we'd love to retire as soon as we can. But right now, based on our situation, we're planning on, 68 for me. So another year, and then Mary another year as well. So 66. So they're going, hey, we'd love to be able to retire with, total confidence. Once again, we go back to them here. Now it depends on their birthday and exact timing here. So Luke 66, Mary 64. And both of them are going, hey, we're willing to stagger this. So 2 more years technically, but depending on their birthday, it's about a year and a half for one and, a year and 8 months for the other. And they're like, hey, we kind of like to retire together. So don't want to get too lost in the sauce, which happens a lot in retirement planning. They'd love to spend $5,000 a month, but they're like, hey, that's our base expenses. Once the mortgage is gone, that's going to help a lot. So it's $5,000 plus they have $2,000 to a mortgage that I'll show you separately in a second. And then they're like, hey, we're not going to travel forever, but the next 10 years, we'd love an extra $10,000 for travel. So these were their goals. This is really rough that I'll kind of put together so you guys can see how I do this. But I'm going to click this one button here because a lot of you are going, hey, what about education, like if I want to help with kids' college, or what if I want to buy a new car every 5 years or 10 years, or help out with a wedding, or maybe we want to move. And if we're going to downsize, that's equity that we can go invest. How do you plan for that? So if that's of interest, just comment below and let me know if you want those. I make all this content for you guys. So let me know what would be helpful, and I'll do all of that. So this here is what I'll start with. The income that they're working with right now, Luke brings in 85,000 a year and Mary brings in 110,000. Social Security, they don't want to collect for some time, so we're just putting an estimate here, but they're leaning towards 70 and 67, just because they want. So let me expand further here. I told myself I wouldn't because I have another episode on this, but I'm going to do it anyway, which is, let's assume you're collecting Social Security. There's so much color around that. You don't want to make the wrong decision, and it's a big decision, okay? So more often than not always, okay? But let's assume Luke has a Social Security benefit, and he's like, hey, I don't know how long I'm going to live, but I want to make sure Mary gets the largest benefit for the rest of her life if something happens to me. So oftentimes I'll have one spouse, for example, Luke, go ahead and collect, but not until age 70. Because if they're going to live into their 90s, and so I start with a conversation about their health and life expectancy. And based on that, if they go, hey, a lot of health in the family, long longevity, I'll say, Luke, why don't you collect at 70? And Mary, why don't you stagger? So I want you to collect a little earlier at 67, because if God forbid something happens to you, Mary, Luke's still going to collect his larger benefit. But if something happened to you, Luke, Mary, you get the larger of Luke's benefit. So I just want to kind of be clear. I'm not going to bore you guys to details, bore you to death right now with the details, but I do a whole, like this specific tab up here, Social Security. Within all of these tabs, Medicare, Social Security, stress testing, this is what we're doing. So this is, of course, our client work. I want to give you part of my job, I view it as, here are things to worry about, which is when can you retire? How much do you want to spend? Here are things not to worry about. So some of this is, I want you to absolutely be clear on this. And I also don't want you to worry about some stuff. So I'm intentionally not showing you everything here to not overwhelm you. Right now, they're both doing 5% to their 401k. Luke just started a new job. And then they're trying to save 10,000 a year in addition to that. And that goes to their taxable account. So this is what they want to do. What I'm going to show all of you guys, and this is the number one thing that you should know, this is what they're on track for. So right away, if you're going, hey, this is kind of me, we're thinking about retiring in a year, 2 years, somewhere in that range, in our late 60s, can we do it? And some of you are watching this years, leading up to this. You're in your 30s, 40s, and you're going, hey, this is, my parents are in this situation, or you know what? Yeah, I don't want to be in this exact spot. What can I do differently? So I'm showing this to a large variety of you, knowing you're watching at different ages of where you are. But here they are, got $567,000 that they can use to grow for them. And their plan looks good. It looks good in the sense that they're going to pass away at 92 with $1.2 million. So some people look at this and they go, great, I'm going to go retire. I'd say, to be honest, 99% of people stop right here and go, yeah, that looks good. I think I'm going to go retire. But what they don't do is stress test, hey, what if, for example, it's a conservative portfolio? I mean, they're not open to invest. This couple, which is not the case, but this couple's like, hey, we don't like investing. We're scared of investing. We don't want to invest this way. What happens if we get conservative growth? So instead of getting maybe moderate growth like a traditional retiree, or you just want to plan more conservatively, there's 840,000 fewer dollars. So I'm not showing this to scare you. This is just real life here. Of if you don't invest well, you're okay, but it's kind of pretty close, $300,000. On the flip side, what no one ever likes to look at, and I don't even start here, but let's just assume they had 85% in equities, which, by the way, I'm not recommending for this client at all. But what you could see is it's still going to help, meaning they could be in a pretty good spot, but ultimately it's still 100,000 fewer dollars. So investing really well is important. But what I always like to do, I'm going to put this back to the base case to keep it simple, is show you guys, once again, here's what this couple wants. Like, this is what they want. This is what they told me. Like, hey, we're planning, let me zoom in here, retiring at 68 and 66, spend $5,000 a month for the rest of retirement, $10,000, but not forever, just the first 10 years. Here's what we're saving today. You're like, great. Okay, this makes sense. What if they retired earlier? I mean, what if they both retired literally in a year or less than a year? Here's what you're going to see. And I'm showing you this on purpose. This should not scare you. Okay. Yeah, there's 300,000 fewer dollars by working one fewer year, which is a lot of money. But this particular couple, they don't have a child. And so they're like, hey, we don't need to leave assets to our kids. So the idea of passing with $900,000, that doesn't scare us at all. In fact, we've read the book Die with Zero, and it really was applicable to us. We wanted to know, what if we just stopped right away? And so they'll look at and they'll stress test and go, hey, can we make this happen? And this isn't for someone to just go look at this and go retire, but it's, hey, there's certainly fewer dollars, but they're still in a good spot. So that's kind of the first thing I'll do. I'll always kind of click this reset button to just show, hey, let's go back to the base case at all times. They retire at 68 and 66. What if, though, we look at the following? What if they're like, hey, we're thinking about retiring. We think 5,000 is enough, but we don't know. So, what if you put 7,000 in there? Would we still be okay? And we'll refresh this and we'll show them. We'll go, hey, are you okay? And the answer is you're okay, but you're pretty much putting that last check in at 90, 91, if you will, and cutting it too close. Where now, if you want to spend 7,000 a month every single month throughout retirement, it's just not feasible. And some clients go, oh my God. Other clients go, hey, that is helpful. Like I kind of need us to know, because 6,000 a month, I think we could do everything we want to do. That is a good amount of money. Yeah, there's hundreds of thousands of fewer dollars, but we made it very clear our goal is not to die with the most amount of money. And so this is something I'll show clients. And even then, I won't stop there. I'll say, okay, now let's go into this cash flow category, which looks really overwhelming to start. Okay, but I promise it's not. I'm going to go through it with you right now. So here's the couple right now. Here's the income that's coming in the door. Salary and Social Security really isn't going to begin for them until next year. So let's assume they just stopped in 2026. No more salary, partial Social Security, and then Social Security starts to get turned on. And so their income in large part is covered by Social Security. What we always want to do is we want to read right to left from here. And some of you are going, wait a second, like I always read left to right. But the reason I ask someone to read right to left is because this net flows category, this is what the couple needs to live so that they can meet all of their expenses. Well, what are their expenses? Let's look at this. And so what we want to do is we want to click into here. So if we click into their expenses, what you're going to see is there's living expenses, there's housing expenses, and these all have different tabs. So if they were retired completely in 2026, they have living expenses. And you're going, what are those living expenses? Well, they want to be able to spend $5,000 a month every single month. But wait, that's not it, because remember, there's housing expenses. And so there's mortgage, and they just said very clearly, hey, we know we can invest, we can do better. We want to pay off this mortgage principal. So in 3 years, by 2028, excuse me, not 3 years, by 2028, so 4 years from now, they want to be done. They're like, we know we can do better. We want to be done. We don't care. That's just what they shared. So what they said is, hey, in the future, we're not going to need as much. Meaning right now we need a lot to come in to pay this mortgage. We're not going to need that forever, but there will be property taxes forever. There will be insurance and maintenance and stuff like that. So we want to plan for that. And then beyond that, there's different goals here. So there's this tab of goals right here. And so like, hey, we'd love to spend $10,000 a month adjusted for inflation from now until about 75. So they're like, hey, let's factor that in as well. So being able to put all of this together on one nice sheet going, okay, here's what's coming in the door. So let's fast forward. I'll give you an example. 2030. 70,000 is going to come in from Social Security. So 70,000 is coming in, but they need more than that, because you can see right here, their expenses, that 5,000 a month adjusted for inflation. They want to spend 10,000 on fun travel, and there's going to be taxes. So 70,000 or so is coming in the door. They need 94,000, 24,000. That's the difference here, has to come from somewhere, and that's their portfolio. And the question is that enough? So that's exactly what this is designed to show. And so I'm not going to go through all the weeds here, but the premise is here's a couple. They're in a good spot. They can make this happen. The question is, what are they comfortable with? What experience are they looking for? Are they hoping to pass away with $1-2 million? Would they rather spend $8,000 a month in retirement? If a client said that, hey, I'd really love to spend $8,000 a month, I'd say, great. That's awesome. You're going to run out of money at 82, but are you open to working longer? And some of my clients are like, hey, we like what we do. So if we could spend more, and it just meant we were working a little longer, that's of interest to us. Not saying to do it. And so you can see here, they'd have a little bit more because they're working, 2 more years than they planned. They're still cutting it close for my liking. But some clients are like, hey, I really do like what I do. I don't have the most amount of money, but I don't want to live frugally. I don't want to decrease my standard of living. And so some people's plans look like this. They keep working a little bit longer into their 70s, which a lot of you are going, hey, I don't want to do that, but then they're okay. So that's the premise of this. This is all I wanted to go through, a quick analysis for all of you who have $500,000 or so. I hope that this was helpful. If it was, I do invite you, of course, to please do subscribe, and please leave a comment. Let me know when you're planning to retire. It's always fun to hear from you guys.